Now we're going to return to one of our main stories. The final report on child sexual abuse in Australia is being handed over to the Governor-General. This is a report that took 5 years to complete. We can speak to Leonie Sheedy. She's the co-founder of the survivor advocacy organisation Care Leavers Australasia Network, known as CLAN. Leonie, I can see there that you and some of the supporters who are with you, you all travelled to Canberra to see this report being handed over to the Governor-General. What does today mean for you?
It's a very momentous day. You know, the country now knows that children in Australia's orphanages, children's homes, missions and foster care were sexually used by the churches, charities and the state governments. And they know they can no longer hide this horrible history. It needs to be taught in every school, in every university of this country. And children like us, we're now elderly adults. We deserve justice, we deserve redress for all forms of abuse and neglect, the loss of our families and the lack of opportunities that life, you know, they didn't provide us for a life and we had to grow up without our parents and pretend it didn't matter. It surely mattered to every single person here standing behind me and many elderly Australians who are hidden in lonely houses across Australia because they're so burdened by the shame and stigma of their childhood. Well, the shame and stigma needs to be squarely put on the churches, the charities and the state governments of this country.
Yes.
Leonie, this was an incredibly far-reaching report and it really investigated so many different types of institutions, these state institutions. Are you satisfied with it?
Well, we actually haven't seen the recommendations, but I can assure you those 6 commissioners have done this country proud, really. I think everybody here, wouldn't you all agree? Yes. And, you know, they took the shame and stigma from our hearts and they carried it for the last 5 years. Well, it now needs to go to every government, state and federal, and it needs to go to the churches and charities and state governments. And if the churches and charities don't opt into redress, well, then they need to lose their charity tax exemptions.
Leonie, thousands of people were spoken to, thousands of survivors were spoken to as part of this investigation. Explain to us, how difficult is it for a survivor to come forward and speak about this?
Well, you don't trust society, you don't trust the police, you don't trust the government, you don't trust anybody. You know, when children in orphanages absconded, they did try to speak up. They tried to speak to the welfare, and the police and the churches and charities just didn't believe. The police even picked us up from the streets and returned us, no questions asked. They returned us straight back into the hands of the abusers and we got punished severely for that. And so it's extremely difficult to tell what happened to you as a child. You have to relive that trauma and that abuse all over again. But these brave men and women, and the oldest person that CLAN has supported at the Royal Commission was 93. They embraced the Royal Commission because they trusted the Royal Commission. They trusted Peter McClellan, Helen Milroy, Jennifer Code, Andrew Murray, who's a homie in your own country. He was in an orphanage in England and you shipped him out to Fairbridge in Rhodesia. And Robert Fitzgerald and wonderful Bob Atkinson, the police commissioner. Those people need the greatest appreciation of this country. Yes. But the burden now has to go to the government and the responsibility is the government to implement every single one of the Royal Commission's recommendations.
Leonie, thank you so much for sharing all your experiences and thank you for speaking to us here on Newsday. Thank you to the team behind you as well. Leonie, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Cassia.